Operation Rolling Thunder was a progressive and sustained aerial campaign carried out by the 2nd Air Division of the U.S. Navy and the South Vietnam Air Force against the North Vietnamese from March until November of 1968. The objective of Operation Rolling Thunder was to uplift the spirit of the Saigon regime in North Vietnam, to convince North Vietnam to withdraw its support from the Communist Army in South Vietnam, to cut off the transportation system in the North Vietnam, and finally to stop the material flow into South Vietnam. The operation was the most intense battle ever conducted during the Cold War. Most of the lives lost were because the Vietnamese knew the land and they set up traps to pin them into areas for a certain amount of time before they would ambush.
The Tet Offensive was a large military offensive during the Vietnam War, which was initiated at the end of January in 1968. The engagement was launched by the Viet Cong and North Vietnamese PAVN against the South Vietnamese Army ARVN troops and those of the U.S. The initial attack stunned the U.S. and the ARVN, or the South Vietnamese troops, causing them to lose control of several cities. However, they quickly regrouped and launched an offensive which inflicted heavy casualties on the PAVN, or North Vietnamese Army. The battle was fought for 2 months, ending on March 28, 1968. The Tet Offensive had a profound effect on the U.S. government and its citizens because they had been made to believe that the PAVN had been weakened and was unable to launch such an aggressive military operation.
The Battle of Khe Sanh began on January 21, 1968. When forces from the People's Army of North Vietnam carried out a massive artillery bombardment on the U.S. Marine garrison at Khe Sanh. Khe Sanh is located in South Vietnam, near the border with Laos. For 77 days, U.S. Marines and their South Vietnamese allies fought off an intense siege of the garrison. It was one of the longest and bloodiest battles of the Vietnam War. The U.S. military presence at Khe Sanh started in 1962, when Army Special Forces built a small camp near the village. It was also 6 miles from the Laotian border on Route 9. Route 9 was the principal road from South Vietnam into Laos. The U.S. Marines built a garrison adjacent to the Army camp in 1966. And in the fall of 1967, the People's Army of North Vietnam began to build up its strength in the region. And U.S. officials began to suspect that the Khe Sanh would be the target of an attack.
The Battle of Hamburger Hill was fought between the U.S. Army support and the Vietnam Army for 11 days, from May 10th through May 20th in 1969. The engagement was concluded on Hill 937, which was renamed to Hamburger Hill due to its grinding nature. The Battle of Hamburger Hill was a part of the Operation Apache Snow, whose goal was to clear the Vietnam forces from the Chao Valley. Despite the hill being of little strategic value to the U.S., it caused unnecessary casualties. The Battle of Hamburger Hill was also led to the diminishing of the popularity of the conflict, since many felt that the battle was pointless and many doubted whether or not the U.S. should be involved in Vietnam further. Eventually, the U.S. and South Vietnam won the Battle of Hamburger Hill.